All right, here we are for an M15 draft once we actually slide this down. And this is Brian Kibler for StarCityGames.com. And this is a pack that I think is actually highlights a lot of what M15 is about, and that is triplicate spirits. This pack actually has a number of exciting, not only other commons, but also rares and uncommons, and yet triplicate spirits really outshines them all. Polymorphous Jest is really powerful, can win you a lot of combats, but it isn't as consistently good as spirits. Neither are the slivers. Everything basically just sort of pales in comparison to this common everywhere. So we're gonna go ahead and pick this. If spirits weren't here, I think that the pick is much more interesting. Clearly, I'm not sure actually whether I like Constricting Sliver or Netcaster or Spider there. Constricting Sliver is a pretty powerful card, but it does cost 6 mana. Netcaster Spider and Reclamation Stage 2 are pretty powerful. Generally, I think Polymorphous Jest is powerful, but blue is a tough color to play, and it's not one of the cards that goes best in what's going on in the color, which is just your ability to be really aggressive. And Jest is good in games that go really long and end up with a bunch of creatures in play, and you're lots of creatures attacking at the same time. Whereas I think that the strength of blue decks is the ability to end games quickly. So here, I think the interesting picks here are really just Siege Worm and Kinsbell Skirmisher. Kinsbell Skirmisher is just a fine creature, but not quite as powerful as Siege Worm. The cheap creatures in this format are generally even more valuable than they are in a lot of formats, just for curve reasons, just because of how they enable Convoke. And I like Siege Worm here because it goes very well with triplicate spirits. I end up in a deck that's looking to do the same sort of thing, convoke these spells. And if I don't end up being white, going into a green direction, I'd obviously rather have Siege Worm than Skirmish in my deck. So I'm gonna go take Siege Worm. And here we have, whoa, there's some powerful cards in this pack. Marsh Lurker and Nightfire Giant are both really, really powerful, though they clearly don't mesh with anything I have going on right now. Nightfire Giant is the sort of card that you could be playing, say, green-black and just splash a mountain for your Nightfire Giant, and it's still actually quite a powerful card. Hunt the Weak is pretty good, but it's hard to take Hunt the Weak over Nightfire Giant, just given how powerful the Giant is. I think that Hunt the Weak is pretty good, but Nightfire Giant is pretty amazing. And the fact that again, I can potentially be green-black and take the Giant. We've seen there's a common and a rare taken out of this pack, so one of the commons that people could reasonably take over these is another triplicate spirits. So we haven't really seen a ton of white coming our way, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this Giant and leave myself open, just with the strongest card still in pack 3. And now here, again, not really seeing very much white here. I think the best cards in this pack are Carrion Crow and Shaman of Spring. Void Snare is okay, but not really something I want to be going necessarily that direction for. I kind of want to take Carrion Crow because my strongest card right now, is, other than Spirits, which I don't really have any support for here, is Nightfire Giant. Nightfire Giant is better than Siege Worm by a fair margin, and it's possible that I don't end up playing Siege Worm and I go in the direction to play the Crow and look to end up maybe even just being black red. So we're going to take the Crow. And here, a Sliver Hive Lord. That thing is large. A Kite Fin. Kite Fin is a pretty good card, but there's some blue coming through here. But it is a 6 cast and cuss card. I'm tempted to just take Child of Night. I don't like Child of Night all that much, but I do sort of want to solidify myself in black here. With the Giant and the Crow. Giant's just my best card by a fair margin. I can still be potentially, as I said, green-black and splash a mountain for Giant off of Evolving Wilds or something. And the Kite Fins, it's a 6 cast and cost card, so it has to be really good in order to be a card that I'm super excited about taking, and it's not really there just yet. So I don't really want to go into another color for that, potentially. And here, there is Necromancer's Assistant, which is pretty good if I do end up being like a green-black graveyard deck, which is one of the better green-black decks that you can really end up in. Paragon isn't particularly good. It's also just a reasonable curve card, whereas the rest of this is just not. Blood Host is fairly weak. Meteorite can be good if you're splashing in some kind of deck. Paragon is good in decks that aren't really mine right now. I have a lot of black creatures, not a lot of green creatures. I'm also just, again, not necessarily green, so I'm going to go ahead and take this Assistant. and see where it brings me. All right. Slyblade this card's actually pretty powerful. It makes it so it's very difficult for your opponent to actually block. It's pretty bad against the token decks, but you can potentially pick up some Festival Glooms to improve your deck there. So I think that I just want to take this. It's not a super powerful creature, but it's a reasonably good thing and stronger than most of what's here. So here, well, there's Shaman of Spring. This is just the best card in the pack overall. Black Cat's actually better than it previously was in other formats, just because again, Convoke is just a really powerful mechanic. So we're not really necessarily again committed to anything, but I'm gonna go ahead and take Shaman of Spring. It's the best card in the pack, generally speaking. Here there's a Verdant Haven, who can potentially play Verdant Haven and use our Nightfire Giant. Appeal from Reality is the best card here. Verdant Haven I don't really want to be playing most of the time. None of these are particularly great for the direction that I think that we're going to end up going. We could take the Goblin. I think the Goblin is the best reasonable card we could play. Appeal is the best card overall. But if we're going in, maybe we end up playing Nightfire Giant, we want to just pick up the Goblin. So I'm going to take the Goblin. And here, Torch Fiend. Again, a possible option if we do end up going in the red-black direction. And here's a Thundering Giant. Ooh, Thundering Giant versus Invasive Species. This is kind of interesting. Right now, I've actually seen... These are both pretty solid cards. I haven't really seen much good late cards, many good late cards in either of the colors. I'm kind of leaning toward being red because of Nightfire Giant. My green cards are better, but I think the direction that Nightfire Giant brings me is overall stronger by just sort of naturally having it in my deck. So, ooh, foil land. And so we're obviously not playing this. We are almost certainly not playing the Triplicate Spirits. And maybe we play Hot Soup, and we basically have a couple of different options here. Going the Siege Worm direction, and Siege Worm plus Shaman, or the red cards. Ooh, this is interesting. Wandering Bard is pretty powerful. And there's also a Undergrowth Scavenger that's very likely to come back if we do end up being green-red, or green-black, rather. But I'm kind of inclined to take the Bloodseeker. Bloodseeker is actually fairly strong. Yisan is a stronger card overall. We don't really have great ways to currently take advantage of it, at least. And right now, we still only have the 2 green cards. Didn't really see a lot of great green late. We did see the Invasive Species, which is a medium green card, but I think I'd rather be red-black anyway, as I said, to just consistently turn on Nightfire Giant. I'm going to go ahead and take the Bloodseeker. And here, Kirkesh is actually pretty good. He's just a 4/3, which in this format is much stronger than most of the creatures you actually see at that mana cost. Generator Servant is okay. Rotfeaster Maggot is good, but not great. I'm just going to take Kirkesh. Just the big body is pretty attractive. All right, we can go ahead and hide some of this stuff. The creatures in red-black are typically not that good. We actually have a number of fairly high-quality ones. Kirkesh, Nightfire Giant, Slyblade obviously isn't a particularly big body, but it does fight very well against other creatures. And here, excuse me, Carrion Crow is, I think, the most attractive card here. We already have a couple of 5s, not really in the market for another Thundering Giant. And, yep, just going to take the Crow. Here, ooh, Covenant of Blood. There's Covenant of Blood and a Cursed Spirit. I think Cursed Spirit is actually the best black creature. But I think that we want Covenant. Right now we actually don't have black common creature, that is, clearly. We don't really have much in the way of removal, and Covenant is both a reasonable possible finisher and a decent removal spell. It's not at its best in this deck just because we don't have all that many particularly cheap threats, but still want to pick it up. And here, well, nothing here is super exciting. There is an Elvish Mystic if he were green, which is better than any of the black options. Bloodhost, again, not super exciting. The Necromancer's Assistant, we already have a lot of stuff at 3 mana, so I'm not really very excited about the possibility of the Assistant. I kind of just want to hit the Bloodhost. Do you have zombies? This isn't a zombie, is it? Oh, it is a zombie. I wonder if this is any good. We have what, 2 zombies? This guy zombie? Ooh, we have 3 zombies? 4 zombies. I'm kind of tempted to try this. We can cycle, and we have at least 5 things that can draw us a card with it. I'm tempted. We're going to try it. All right, here. Shield has been shockingly okay for me. Or at least against me. Just if you're playing a deck that has the ability to generate enough guys, it can make it very difficult for your opponents to actually ever block. But I don't really see it being great in this deck. We have a number of evasive guys. We have like Slyblade. I think I just want to take this Gargoyle Sentinel. It's not great in this deck. It's not great in any sort of aggressive deck. But this deck isn't super aggressive. This deck is not really coming together how I would like at the moment. Ooh, there's a Scrapyard Mongrel. Scrapyard Mongrel definitely likes the Gargoyle Sentinel. Typhoid Rat is not really what I'm looking for here. I'd rather have the potentially sizable creature. Alright, let's go ahead and hide these green cards. And here, just going to take a Generator Servant. Not awesome, but a decent guy. And we could have had multiple Undergrowth Scavengers if we were black-green. But most of the other green cards weren't super exciting, so I'm just gonna take this Zoffshade. Zoffshade is just a fine mid-range-ish dude. Rummaging Goblin, Darksteel Citadel in case we get more mongrels. Could have had a bunch of late Venom Slivers actually if we were green. Yeah, did not mean to take out my Covenant of Blood. Get in there, Covenant of Blood. I'm kind of curious about the stockpile. I want to try it. Carrion Crow is a zombie. Just lets me loot. It's sort of like a Rummaging Goblin you have to pay mana for. I'm probably not going to discard a Nightfire Giant, though. You a zombie? You are. You're not. You're a vampire. I've never tried this. All right, so and this has been a kind of a weird draft just because the sort of going back and forth, the red versus, or not red, yeah, red versus green question. Ooh, a Cone of Flame. Well, I'm certainly glad I'm red. This is basically just the best card, almost possible. There's another Triplicate Spirits, but we're taking Cone of Flame. There's not really much that I can even imagine taking over Cone of Flame. That's just super, super powerful. So we don't have that many red creatures, so Paragon isn't very attractive. Inferno Fist is pretty good. Probably the best card here for me. Right now I have like a reasonable selection of okay creatures, but not great creatures, and I have only a couple removal spells, so I definitely think I want to take Fist. Here, there is a Typhoid Rat, who's pretty good. Shadowcloak Vampire. Like right now, my deck has a couple of big guys. I think I probably just want a Typhoid Rat. It's a cheap guy for, I guess I don't really have that much Convoke, but also just defending himself against large threats. They can get some damage in early, and don't really want that compared to another big dude. And here, a Bronze Sable I think is probably my best bet here. It turns on Scrapyard Mongrel. I sort of wish I could be taking this Living Totem because it's considerably better, but probably not going to actually end up playing this stockpile. But it was neat when I thought about it. Accursed Spirit is great here. Accursed Spirit is a solid threat with evasion, which is a lot of what was going on in this deck. So we're gonna be able to cut some cards, which is kind of nice. Ooh, another Mongrel. This is a deck that I think actually can use Mongrel quite well. I'm gonna pick up a Mongrel. Multiple Urborgs. Here there's a Hammerhand or an Evolving Wilds. I feel like this deck is a deck that actually Hammerhand is pretty good in. Sorry, stockpile. You were fun to think about, but I think we probably just want the hammer hand. This is looking like probably what my deck is gonna end up like. We probably can't actually play Citadel, but we do have Hot Soup and Sable, which can all turn on the mongrels. But hammer hand is nice. Probably gonna end up cutting like a goblin at least. Maybe not. Maybe if we're cutting Darksteel Citadel, we have. I wonder if Darksteel Citadel is worth playing with double Scrapyard Mongrel. We don't actually have that many double casting cost cards. We're actually now more red than we are black. I wonder if we can pull it off. With double Mongrel, it does seem pretty attractive, because this guy is way stronger if you actually have artifacts. Maybe it's even worth playing Gargoyle Sentinel. It might be, over like a Rummaging Goblin at least. Another Typhoid Rat probably. We don't really want another just 2-1 for 2, so I don't know that we'll play a rat in our main deck, but it's definitely nice to have the option. Tyrant's Machine is pretty good against some decks just have individual big guys, but I don't think we're going to end up playing it regardless. I just hate one of these cards. But I'll give myself the option of the Tyrant's Machine. Again, I have double Scrapyard Mongrel. Another Thundering Giant is actually kind of attractive, at least as an option. Here, I'll hate this Marked by Honor, because that could be a card I could lose to. Crowd's Favor is actually potentially very good in my deck, with multiple Scrapyard Mongrels that will often just get blocked and people try and trade them, trade away. So, I think that actually turned out pretty well. Probably don't want to play. Probably just cut this Rummaging Goblin. And then 1, 2. Alright, probably cut 1 rat. And then maybe just 1 Thundering Giant. Having the two giants, or Thundering Giant and Nightfire Giant. You know, I have Hammer Hand, and I guess we don't have any particular synergies with Hammer Hand. My deck is still pretty aggressive though. You know, Hammer Hand to let like a mongrel through in a big turn can be pretty powerful. I have 4 artifacts if I play all of these, which makes my mongrels really good. Necromancer's Assistant is pretty mediocre, but he still at least can hit pretty hard. I think I like this setup here. I do end up having 3 double red cards, and I kind of want to just play 8-8-1 with the Citadel because I want to be able to enable the mongrels. Maybe Sentinel's not worth it. You know, these are all fine cards, but Sentinel might just not be worth it because it's just going to be really difficult for me to find the mana to attack with it. I guess if I have enough other cheap stuff that I'll frequently have Sentinel just, potentially as a finisher against kind of a stalled board that can also turn on mongrels or just be defensive against, other aggressive decks. I like Crowd's Favor largely because the mongrels can, smash through things that are trying to block them. Plus, it's just actually a fairly strong card when there's, people play like 2-3s when you have 2-1s and things like that. Can help, like Carrying Crow, not trade with, but kill other flyers. I'm gonna try this. I think this looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how things ultimately turned out. I would obviously like to have a little bit more removal in this deck, but overall I have some pretty powerful guys. I have Cone of Flame, I have Nightfire Giant, so some pretty bomb level power cards, and then the mongrels are not at the best they can be, but they're certainly fairly strong with a number of good enablers. So let's add my lands. And we're just gonna go 8-8. And submit the deck. All right, let's get our battle on and bring some people to the scrapyard. Here we go.